Okay.
Hey guys, what's up? Amir Ryder here for another episode of the Transform Sales Podcast, our software seller demo series. Erik Paulson, the founder of Scrubby, is joining us today. What's up, Erik? How are you?
Hey,
Where
Amir,
are
what's
you?
going on? Good to see you again.
Usual, man. Trying to help create transparency in a cloudy world of thousands of software sellers that are helping companies generate revenue, and that's it, man. Doing the same thing. You're based where today? In California?
I'm in Tallinn, Estonia, in
Oh
Europe.
my God, you're
Yeah.
back to Europe.
Yeah.
But you usually spend time in California, right?
Yes. I think once it starts going minus 25 degrees Celsius, I'll be in California.
You're like, yeah, you do the migration. I'm stuck in the internal spring here in Medellin. But let's jump into this. Maybe tell us quickly about yourself and about Scrubby, so for listeners get familiar with you and the brand.
Yeah. Thanks. So I've been in the outbound lead gen space for well over 2 decades now. I was one of the pioneers in cold emails back in the day. 2002 started an agency called Vendisys, so at the peak we're doing well over 30 million emails a month, all cold, right?
Yeah.
And then back in 2020, spam filters were getting a lot tougher on blocking things. And one of the things that other than engagement, we found out that one of the easiest way for them to detect cold emails, like your bad emails, hard bounces, right? So, although we were using, zero bounce and never bounce and a few other tools to like do this validation, we were the catch-alls, the accept-alls, those we were mostly putting them in there, but we were getting a lot of bounces on those. So then we decided, hey, you know what? It's not worth we were trying to dilute our emails, and we're like, okay, let's put in like half of the catch-alls in there, and then but it was burning our deliverability. So we're like, you know what? Forget it. Let's just leave out the catch-alls completely, and it slashed our volume in half because 40%, 50%, sometimes 60% of a list comes back as catch-all. And we're like, you know what? It's not worth it to include it. And then it took us 2 or 3 years to really come up with like, all right, how do we actually validate these catch-alls? So a lot of people call them now risky emails, and so yeah.
So let me pause you. There's a lot to digest there, but I followed you because I know you well. So Vendisys, guys, is a sales agency. They are listed on our marketplace. You can download the list for free and learn more about their listing. They do a pay-per-meeting offering, which we use as a customer. And then what Erik's really saying is that by being a service owner, an agency owner, they had to go to market to produce meetings for their clients. They went to market with email. I know they also do LinkedIn now. You guys do LinkedIn really awesome too. And found that there were issues with spam filters getting smarter. Spam filters typically would look at a bounce rate as an indicator of a spammer, right? So right off the bat, you want to keep your bounce rate. I think HubSpot says like 0.5% of your emails, right? So if you pull from an Apollo.io and you don't clean them, you might get a 10, 20% bounce rate. We love Apollo, but it's the truth. I tell them to clean it, right? And I think you want me to introduce you to Policy, which I'll do, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to help them to clean. So that's a whole different story. So you basically, by being an expert in the service, you ran the rework almost ClickUp. What was that model? It was I forgot the model, but you fixed your own problems, right? And then you mentioned other players, but what you noticed that they didn't do well was that they didn't handle catch-alls. And for anybody listening, what a catch-all really is a email cleaning service telling you, hey, we don't know if this is valid. We don't know if it's invalid. Email it at your own risk. Meaning that if you have 10,000 catch-alls, there's a chance they could all be valid. But if you don't clean them and you send them, there's a chance that 50% could be a bounce rate. You could hurt them. So then you got into saying, okay, cool, here are the technologies already exist, but they don't really do catch-all well. Let's focus on what they don't do well, which is catch-alls. And by the way, I'm going to get back to you, but we recently did a poll on our target TAM with Apollo. We use Apollo. Apollo's in our marketplace. I love them. They've helped us go from 0 to 5 million AR when we were a service company. But what I noticed was that of 50,000 CEOs that I polled, 10,000 were catch-alls. And that's why I reached out to you. And I said, hey, Erik, give me some credits. I want to try the system. And of the 10,000 catch-alls that we cleaned, it came back saying 9,000 were valid. I don't want to lie and say that we emailed them to verify because I haven't done it because I've been just busy, but I'm going to do it and be honest. But it was my use case was, hey, well, if I got 50,000 contacts, 30,000 are valid, and each contact could be worth $5 for me, well, then these 10,000 are worth something. And if I don't clean them and I ignore them, I'm losing money for opportunity. So anybody listening, that's kind of my take on Erik's introduction, because I understand it, I understand it well. Goes into our next question. Who is your ideal customer? Is it a sales agency doing high volume emails, or is it an end user doing high volume emails? What does it look like? I know it's somebody who wants to protect their vendor's domain, but what is your best client?
So our ideal clients are threefold. One is definitely like cold email agencies, right? Because they have the responsibility to make sure that they generate leads with and their list is well, for one, they want to maximize their target list of emails that they're using, and they have the responsibility to make sure they're getting maximum deliverability and they don't burn their domains by having a high bounce rate, right? So definitely cold email agencies. We have a lot of enterprise as well. I can't name them, but we do have a number of Fortune 500 accounts using this. So they're BDRs, SDRs, even marketers are doing this, right? And then the third category, we're also dealing with some of the largest data players. So we have one of the top 3 data players, similar to an Apollo, right? Or a ZoomInfo. They just validated 50 million records. Yeah. So those are like our 3.
So instead of making you pick, because I asked you this question almost as a trick question to get you to pick one, and you mentioned sales agencies, you mentioned enterprise buyers, and you mentioned data providers, and typically I'd be like, you got to pick one of the 3, but I'm not going to do that to you. Okay. Because I'm going to leave it as a good client for you is a company that has a high email volume that they're sending, whether it's cold or inbound, right? Because even if inbound leads come back bounce or they decay, you got to clean them. And so it's basically someone who's high volume of emails, needs to protect their sender score so that they can get emails delivered to generate money. That would be your ideal client.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't want to exclude anybody. I could have done that to you, but those 3 things, there's one thing that all 3 of those companies that you mentioned have in common, and that's high volume and the need to protect their sender score, right?
Yeah. And we're primarily focused on B2B. So that's one criteria for us. Yeah.
B2B, high volume, right?
Yeah.
Protect your sender score.
Exactly.
Talk to me about how a user would measure success with your platform before we get into like a quick little demo.
So how you measure success is by like twofolds. One is how much how much you can expand your list size, right? And then where you're gonna what's gonna be your hard bounce, right? So now how you can maximize your lead list, there's 2 aspects to it. Number one is like the example that you gave me. You pulled in 50,000 records of CEOs and 10,000 of them were risky, right? And then you validate those 10,000. I don't know, maybe out of the 10,000, 90% of them were valid, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up actually.
So I'm sure you must have used the verified section of Apollo. So you relied on the high confidence email score of Apollo, right? And that's typically the case. So with the high confidence emails, you're gonna get lesser percentage of risky emails and a higher percentage of valid within the risky emails. And then the inverse of that, when you tap into the lower or the guest sections, right? The guest emails, the low confidence emails, they have a higher percentage of risky emails, and within that, a higher percentage of invalids, right? So why is that relevant? Is 80%, 90% of the users, they don't even touch the guest ones, the lower confidence ones, right? But if you have a mechanism to actually include them into your lead list, they're going to be much higher response. Their response rate is going to be much higher because no one's touching them, no one's hitting them, right? And also the 10,000 like the risky emails, that you validated. Most people are throwing the riskies out, right? So measure of success is you want to maximize your lead list, right? By validating and including the risky emails, and also tapping into the lower confidence sections or lower confidence emails. And then also, what's your response rate from the valid risky emails, right? They're we've seen them to have like 2 or 3 times higher response rates because everyone is ignoring them. They're not even touching them, So those are some of the measures of success for our clients that we've seen.
Well, that makes sense. Just to digest what you said. So it's basically how people will measure their success is by paying attention to the amount of emails that come back as catch-all or claimed or valid, and then measuring what percent of those Scrubby was able to clean and what revenue generated from them.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, right? So I understand what you're saying. So it's basically like, okay, if you were skipping these emails, as you should, because they're accept all. And by the way, Erik, the Scrubby doesn't just clean accept alls, right? It does valids too, right? It just, that's kind of like its unique thing, right? So let's add, there's some companies that just don't do that, right? They don't do accept alls, right? So you validate all emails and you validate accept alls. So you can measure it by 2 ways. You can measure it really if you are just cleaning accept alls, you would measure the accept all and what percentage are clean. And what you're saying is true. If everybody's ignoring accept alls, then there's more likely to get a return on them because they're getting emailed less because everybody sees them as an accept all. And if they don't have a tool to clean accept alls, they're probably just ignoring them, right? Yeah. And then if you're using Scrubby as a way of measuring all the emails you pull from your system, including accept alls, then you would just measure it based on how many you clean and accept alls, right? So that makes a ton of sense for me. And anybody's got any questions, obviously reach out to Erik and his team and download some of their awesome assets or ask questions. We're always here to answer questions and learn from each other.
Sorry, how do you feel one other thing. So we're not a displacement for a zero bounce, never bounce, we're a second layer validation tool. So all these tools, they're doing an SMTP handshake to see if this email exists. And again, half of the mail servers are configured to be catch-all. That means these tools can identify them as catch-all, but they cannot validate them, right? So what we're saying is do your first layer validation through these tools. Any of these tools are pretty much all built around the same technology. And then give us the catch-alls, we'll validate them.
That makes sense. That's clear, right? Like I didn't know that because I had a catch-all problem when I came to you, right? So I just focused on that, and I didn't actually ever ask you, hey, are you just focused on catch-alls or do you do it all? So I assume that you do it all. I like hearing that you're hyper-focused to help. You're actually here to help. You're not here to displace. You're here to amplify because it's a credit-based system, right? Most people. So it's like they're not wasting money with 2 systems. They're paying for credits to get this information and they're paying for credits to get accept all. But if someone didn't have another system, is it safe to say that they could use Scrubby for all their email cleaning needs? Or do you want them to perhaps focus with someone else and use you for accept alls? And that's something I don't know.
I mean, they can, but it's going to be too expensive. It's going to be too expensive. I mean, we're like 5x or sometimes.
No, I love this. I love this. This is super clear. It makes sense. You are designed to amplify the existing systems and to focus on the accept alls. I'm like, I just used you for that, and I never asked questions because I'm super busy like you. But now it's actually good to clarify because now, at the end of the day, and if you're listening and you're an email never bounce or your email list clean or any of these guys, and you want to partner with someone to use their API or whatever to clean your accept alls, Erik can work with you on there. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. You're here just to help the industry, right? You're helping sales agencies, you're helping data providers, you're helping email cleaners. So it's like you found a problem and you're fixing it. And like I said, that was a problem for me. Like I was like, man, of these 10,000 emails, that could be like 50 companies hiring remote candidates. That could be a tremendous amount of opportunity for us that we're just not touching. So how do you feel about it? I know it's not like, I know the demo might be a little, I know you clean emails, so it's not crazy, but if you could share your screen and maybe just show people what the UI looks like. And I know it's simple and I like it. It's like upload your emails here, clean it, right? But just give the guys a nice visual would be awesome if you can. There's a plus button on the bottom.
Yeah, so let me see. Do you see my screen now?
I do, and I'm going to add it to the stage.
Okay, yeah. So it's fairly straightforward. So again, everyone, you can you can sign up. You get 100 free credits, whether you want to sign up for a monthly or pay go. We just introduced this pay as you go credit model, right?
Yeah.
But these are the monthly plans that we have, right? This is the most popular one, either one of them, right? So for $247, you get 10,000 validation, and they don't expire; they roll over, right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to, like, after, let's say, 3 months, you end up not using much of this and you want to convert into a pay go, you can do that as well. So you're not gonna lose these. And then obviously we have higher plans for agencies. They're doing 100,000 or a lot of them are.
Anybody listening, you guys roll with product-led growth. You give how many credits for free?
100 credits on.
So anybody's here, take 100 catch-alls, clean them, email them. All right, Erik's giving you an opportunity to let the product prove out without paying anything, and then the cost is obviously very straightforward, right?
Yeah. And then these are the payable pricing. We do have an API, right? And we also have a dashboard where you would simply just come in and upload your CSV. Right. Okay. And then, we'll take it on the back end. The thing is, our tool is not real time, like zero bounds on all these other things. It will take us 2 or 3 days to come back because we're actually sending an email to these. So we have a large form of
different mechanism.
What?
You have a whole different mechanism of validating accept-alls.
Exactly. So we're sending an actual email to your email list. And then we're gonna, we need to sometimes wait 2 or 3 days for like latent hard bounces, and then we'll come back and say, hey, these are hard bounces, exclude them. These are invalid, and these are valid, right? And then you'll have a history of your how much.
I used it, and it took 2 days to clean it, and I was okay with that because, frankly, I wasn't cleaning accept-alls, and if you were instantaneous like the other providers, then you wouldn't be different and you wouldn't be accepting accept-alls, right? So there's a reason why the other guys probably aren't doing accept-alls. It's a whole different process, a whole different workflow, a whole different time, right? So they're doing the instant, here it's valid or not. You're doing the accept-alls, which take a little bit more time because you have to get replies back to the list. I'm like, anybody who wants to protect their sender score, the accept-alls, I don't think they're in a rush to get their data back. I think they're more, because I put myself as a buyer, right? Because I've used this. I think they're more interested in, can I clean these accept-alls and will they not hurt my sender score?
Yeah.
And if that takes 2 days because of your process, then I'm happy about that because it's not a delay. That's actually just the process. I know you're actually doing your job. So I don't mind that, right? It's like if the gym teacher's like, hey, you're gonna get ripped in a day. It's not true, right? So you take more time, but you're just validating a different way. And I like how you position it as almost like, don't be afraid, like it's almost a negative thing that it takes 2 days, but I see it as a positive because I'd be a little bit more skeptical if it was instant like everybody else, right? So it shows that, it kind of, that timeline aligns with your differentiation, if that makes sense, at least to me. And I hope it makes sense to anybody who's here. Everybody who's listening to this, we're gonna end this podcast, but in the comments below, you have a link to Scrubby. Go grab 100 credits. Erik, you've been meaning to have me introduce you to Apollo. Write me that email if you want me to make that introduction, especially if you're going to help them have cleaner emails. I'm all about it. I talked to Tim about cleaning emails maybe 4 years ago or something like that. And whatever he's doing it right because they're doing an awesome job and crushing Zoom info. But it's nice to see that there's other people trying to even help some big players get. You're trying to help everybody. You win when people get emails delivered, and they win when they deliver emails as well. For anybody, check out the link, sign up, get your 100 credits. But if they want to connect with you directly, Erik, what's the best place for them to follow you and connect with you and learn from you? Because you have been emailing since 2002. And if you want to learn from an expert, find a person who's been emailing since 2002, because he's got 22 years of expertise, 21. So
So anyone, you can just email me at eric@scrubby.io. And happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. All right, dude. Thank you so much for joining. You have a good one. And I look forward. And by the way, I'm going to put this out there. Erik's got an agency listed in our marketplace, and he's got about 5 other products that are all sales related in our marketplace. Why? Because when he went to business as an agency for 22 years, he found problems. And what did he do? He fixed those problems with his software platforms. So it's really straightforward. I found a problem, I fixed it. So you're going to see a lot of Erik in our marketplace because he's all over the place. He's a service provider and he's a tech provider, but he's a guy who gets his hands dirty and rolls up his sleeves. And you have an awesome team. They're super responsive. I've been a pleasure working with them so far. Thank you for joining the show. And everybody, appreciate you listening to the Transform Sales Podcast, our software seller series. I will let you